So we just created a table, and there was an option that says extends table. We did not give any value in that, we just left it empty. So anyhow the table was created. So now I'm jumping into the table. Let us identify what are the columns that are available in this system. You can see only 5 columns, created by, updated by, and updates. Nothing much. Now let us try to see how what happens when I try to create a table that extends from some other table, right? For example, I'll give um, my custom table extending task. This is my table name. So in an extends table, there are a lot of options of existing table that I can extend it from. So probably I will use the task table. So if you see what is the task table, the backend name of task table is task. So to identify the records, I will do task dot capital list. So it's a shortcut to take me right away to the table. Now you can see that how many fields are there in task table. You have more than 20 to 30 fields, right? These many fields are available in task table. Now what will happen if I create a table that extends task table is, the moment I create it, all the columns or fields that are available for task table comes free of cost for me, like free of effort for me. I do not have to create a separate fields like assign to and all of that. It comes automatically along with that.
It's like interlinking the current table with another table, right?
Yeah, interlinking, but this is like task is parent. See, this one is parent, this is the child.
Yeah.
So as per concept of inheritance, whatever fields is available with the task will be granted to this child also. Now you can see that this
Oh,
is the custom table that I've created. I have given it as it should be extending task. So what happened is, instead of me creating any of these fields, system automatically extended all those columns, like because the parent is task, right? So the child got everything free. Like it got inherited of all the fields that its parent was having. Now, in addition to top of this, we can create our own custom fields. So now this one has automatically got all these 70 plus fields here, and you can go ahead and create a few fields exclusively for this table. It will not affect anything else. It will just reside on this table. Now to let me tell you what are other such tables that are being extended from task table, right? So I'll put extends table as task. So in out of box itself there was 40 and I just created one. So 40 plus 1, 41. In this, the familiar tables for you is incident, right? These are something that you should be familiar with. Incident table is in fact inherited from task table. So whatever fields that you have in task table also comes, at free for incident table. Same with change task, same with problem task, and with change request, and literally all of the 40. But I'm trying to highlight the tables that you might already be aware of. Requested item, catalog task, right? So all these tables, these are nothing but inherited from task table. So when I say inheritance, it is not just the field columns. It is also about it is also about the logics that you have written in your task table. Let us say you have written one logic that when a ticket is created, it has to send an email. Uh, all these logic, let us say you have written in your task table. All this logic will also be inherited and granted to the child tables. Right? Any questions on this inheritance concept?
so if we need to edit these dictionaries, can we do that?
Okay. Now let us say that you have incident table and you have something called dictionary entries, right? But the problem is, if I change a common field, probably assigned to some field that is available in task. So if I change that, I should be making sure that it does not affect any of the sibling tables. When I say sibling tables, problem, change, or these are all siblings, right? Because all of them are inherited from the same parent, which is nothing but task table. So I have to make sure that this does not cause any issue to my sibling tables. So you can see that the assign to field is stored where it is stored in task table. But in your company, you get a requirement that um, they want to change, they want to modify something for incident table alone. Now there are two options. You can create a new field called assign to for your incident table, but again the problem is there will be two duplication, right? In listed it, if you see, there will be two assigned to, people will get confused. Instead of that, there is something called dictionary overrides. The fields are called as dictionaries, and whatever you try to write on top of it is called as dictionary overrides. So you have an idea how do we get it, get through this. I will tell you how to get to this page. How do you get to this page is you can open incident module, right click, configure all. You remember, so I said anything that you want to modify in a table, you have to do right click, configure all, so that it opens up a page and you can see all the configurations that we could edit at this place. Now you have 97 dictionary entries and 8 dictionary overrides already.
So earlier we used to enter the dictionary, but now we
Mhm.
are overriding it, right? In order not to duplicate it.
Correct. So dictionary is something is
Yes.
called a field, right? And
Yeah, field, yes.
but current scenario is we have fields that are being inherited from the parent, which is task. Now changing the label. See, you have something called assign to, right? Where is my assign to? Here you have. Imagine changing the label of this. I open up this record. Changing the label of this will impact, let me put it like this, okay? Changing the label of this will impact for all the tables. Like in change request, it will say like this assign to, in problem, everywhere, wherever this field is being called out, everywhere it will reflect. But we don't want this to be done for all the tables. We want it to be done only for incident table. At that time, you have to make a dictionary override. And now there are some existing dictionary overrides that is already generated by the system. Let us see what are the overrides that we have for incident table. We have one override for incident table. You should not get confused with incident and incident task. Incident task is a different table. So talking about incident table, we have one override. Let us see. Okay, so they are trying to override the reference qualifier and they're trying to override the attributes. In terms of field, you have several components, right? Let me go through one after the other before I jump into overrides. So, as up until yesterday, I would have shown you how do you create a field for a table. So you would just give the table name and you would give what is the column label, like what is the field label you want to the field to be displayed, and this is something auto populated by the system with no spaces and an underscore replacing spaces. And you have an option to give whether the type, you can give it as a reference or a list collector or a string or an integer. There are several types that we have, you can give one of them. And of course disabling and enabling of the dictionary entry. Now this is something called read only, right? As the name suggests, if you mark it true, what happens is people will see the data but nobody will have access to edit the data. For example, priority field, right? We have priority field, isn't it? People cannot manually change the priority. It is changed by some configuration which is dependent upon impact and urgency. As soon as somebody changes an impact and urgency of an incident, priority gets changed, right? So priority is never editable by anyone. So if you look at priority and all, it will be read only true. So for such requirements, in the field level itself, you can make it read only true. And of course in field level if itself, if you want to make it mandatory true, you can enable it. And this displays something, uh, so there is for every table there is one display value, right? For example, for incident table, what is the display value? Inc number is the display value, right? For problem table, which is the display value? PRB so and so is the display value, right? For user table, what is the display value? Any answers? For user table, what is the display value?
sys
In user,
underscore
okay, that is the table name. That is the table name. The display value of user table is name, name, name. See, how do you identify what is the display value is? Right? It says able tutor here. Able tutor is nothing but the name of this user record. Likewise, if I open up an incident, if I open up an incident record, I open this record, right? And I can see all the field, which is fine. And I can see the incident table name also here and the backend name also here. But here there is some number, right? INC. That is nothing but display value, right? Like that, for user table, name is the display value. Like that, for problem table, that problem number will be the display value. So for each table, there will be one display value. So this display checkbox, if you enable this, what will happen is in task table, number will no longer be display value. It will get jumped to assigned to. So we should not enable that. Is this clear? The understanding of display value? Okay, I can show you another example to give you better
Yeah,
clarity.
once check it the display option and show how it will look like.
Okay, um, let me do it for incident. Override display value. Okay, okay, I'll just enable this assign to and do a right click and save. Do you see what is the info message we received? Previously, number was the display value. Do you remember I told you INC or PRB, whatever is the number. Now, since we enabled this for any table, only one field could be a display value. Since we enabled this, we had a number set as true for display value that was automatically changed by system to false. Says setting display value of assigned to true and changing display value of number to false. Now let me refresh this incident record. Okay. Do you see Beth Anglin? Previously, it was saying INC0055. Now it says Beth Anglin. The reason is because the assigned to of the ticket is Beth Anglin. So as I told you, whichever you mark it as a display field, that that comes up here, right? So let me turn it off. Any questions? I think the demonstrating this could have helped you on understanding. Let me disable it back so that it gets back to its form. Okay, now we have disabled this. Let's refresh. Okay, it automatically got resetted to its original, the incident number. Okay. So any questions with the read only mandatory and display? And if you ask me why this is read only, it is because for reference field, the function field will be always disabled. Function field is something like you want to do calculation or something like that. This is used. I will show you another example to explain this. For reference field, it is like a referencing record, right? Why would you require a calculation? Where if it is an integer, if you're creating a field with an integer or something, at that time function field will be editable. So that is why this is not editable here. Let's leave this and let me take you to reference specification. Now we have given that we want this field to be a reference field. So it is important we have to choose which table it has to reference to. Since it is an assigned to, we know that oh, assigned to names are stored in the table called user table. So I want this to be referenced from user table. We've given that. And what are the records that we want to see it from user table? In user table, you have like let's say you have 5,000 records. You don't want to see all the 5,000 records, right? You probably want to see the records which are active is true, and probably email ID is not empty, and there is some existing condition. Roles is ITL. There is one field called roles in your user table, so they have put up a filter that roles is ITL. Only those users should be listed up here, right? This is with regard to reference specification. Okay, choice list specification will not apply here because this is a reference, this is not a choice list. Okay, dependent field. In incident, you see something called assignment group and assign to, right? So here you have service desk, and in assign to, if you see generally in user table, you have nothing less than 100 records, right? But it shows only 3 records. Why do you think so? Because assign to field is dependent on assignment group. I'm doing a right click and I'm clicking show assign to, and it says that it is dependent upon assignment group field. So what is this concept of dependency is that uh, this assigned to field will only show the list of users that are mapped with this assignment group. Every group have members, right? Every group has members, right? So whoever is a member of this particular group, only their names will be showed up here. In addition to that, we saw that there was one other condition. ITL roles is ITL. So it is important that these it should be from these three people, and also in that whoever has the role ITL, only those names will be popping out here. It seems that all the three people have ITL roles, so all the three names are showing up. So this is how your dependent field column works. So here you have to put the backend name of the dictionary entry which you want to be referenced, right? And calculated value is again is something that is available for integer such kind of fields. So here you would not require. Now coming back to dictionary entry override, right? So now you have a decent understanding of what is reference qualifier, what is dependent. Okay, attributes, I'll tell you there are a lot of attributes, um, uh, as in like for example, do you see something a different icon here, but you don't see that icon here? See, this is also reference field, caller is also reference field, assignment group is also reference field, right? But what is the difference between caller and assignment group is that this is referencing to user table, this is referencing to assignment group, which is fine. But in addition to that, what is the other difference is that there is something called show related list button available up here, right? It is because there is an attribute added in order to show this button. Like that, you can keep adding attributes to this. And there are some existing out of box attributes available. So I will give you the list of those. You could make use of them, as per your requirement. Override default value. Um, Usually, let us say you have state field, right? In state field, in default value, they would keep it as new. But let us say the default value of task table state field is new. If you want to override that in incident, you can just update like the value, the in progress value here, so that the default value of the field will get overridden. Same applies with mandatory, read only, and the display value. Any questions with dictionary override? So as an assignment, what you could do is um, you could try out, changing the existing task table database using dictionary entry overrides. Like, okay, if I change this, what happens? And all these, you can, try it as a exercise. Any questions with dictionary entry overrides? Okay, so here you see override reference qualifier, right? But here it was even more simpler. It was easy, like no scripting involved. You just have to do roles as ITL active is true. But in override, we do not have such options. It looks like this something looks like kind of script or some keywords, right? Like a SQL statement. So how could you possibly write this? Is it is nothing difficult. Um, it is from users table, right? Assign to is referenced from users table, right? So here you put up the condition. What are the conditions? Roles is ITIL or roles is incident, right? This is the role name. This you'll have to uh, uh, either memorize or you will see it in the roles table, the list of role names. So to find the exact name, you can refer it from there. So you give it a run. So once this is done, you go there and use your right cursor on the mouse or your keypad something, do a right click, and then you find something called copy query. I'll repeat. So whatever filter that you want to put, you just manually put with no scripting, nothing. You give it a run and do a right click and do a copy query. So once you've done a copy query, it gets copied to your clipboard. Now let me paste it here as a notepad. Do you see any difference from this and this? No, right? So this is how you generate your uh, filter queries. This is how you generate filter queries. Okay, any questions with regard to um, dictionary entry overrides? Okay, so let's jump into next section. So now we have seen table and process flow formatters. How do we create fields and how do we make them mandatory or read only in the field level? But how do we do it when there is a change in the requirement as in so let's say there is a requirement such that when short description contains SAP sales, then description should be mandatory, or else we could make one of these fields mandatory. So let me put up a requirement that when short description contains SAP sales, then description should be mandatory, right? This is a requirement, let us assume. Now, how do we do that is do a right click, configure all. Okay, so you see these are the components we have, right? And you should be aware of dictionary entry by now and dictionary entry overrides by now. Now let us go to UI policies. The next topic that we will see is UI policies. User interface policies. Let me give true a new one. So I'm clicking on UI policies new. So it automatically comes pre-filled with the table, which is incident. And then I'll just say that uh, make the make the description mandatory when short description contains the word SAP sales, right? Now you can see that there are two tabs into it. One is when to apply and the other one is script section. Now let's not jump into the script. We'll just see with algorithm. In when to apply, it asks you like when you want this condition to be happening. So we're saying that we want this to be happening only when short description contains SAP sales. Okay, that is done. And this global is always enabled true. Only then it will work in all the modules, regardless of you're using in mobile or laptop, whichever version. And you want this when the form is loading or not, right? I will show you an example of what happens when if checked and what if happens if it is unchecked. This also I'll show you an example. So let me do a right click and save. So we have given the table and we have given just technical notes that we're going to make this description mandatory when short description contains the word SAP sales. This part, right, when short description contains the word SAP sales, this has been accomplished here. But how am I going to accomplish? Make the description mandatory. For that, I have to load the related list. In related list, you have something called UI policy action. Action meaning what you're going to do, right? So let me click on new. What we're going to do is you're going to make description mandatory. So you click on to this field name thing. It will show you all the field names that are available under incident table. Now you will have to be concerned only about description field. So I just do a control F description and I can see the field here already. So I choose this. After choosing, I have four options. In this, I'm gonna make mandatory true and do a right click save. I'll explain the other components also with each set of examples. Now I do a refresh. Do you see previously we did not have this mandatory field here, but now we have it. It's because we created an UI policy. Just to confirm, I can show you again after disabling the UI policy that we just developed. I'm going to disable this, save it, and refresh the incident form again. So you see that in description field is no longer mandatory, right? And even you are allowed to save it without filling up this form. But when I make it active, it will become mandatory because we have written a condition when short description contains the keyword SAP sales. Short description contains SAP sales. At that time, we want to make description mandatory true, right? Now, read only, right? So this UI policy actions is capable of three actions: mandatory, visible, and read only. So I'll do read only true and I'll refresh for you to see how it comes out. This will become mandatory and obviously it will become not editable, right? So you could fit this particular scenario with any of the requirements that you have. Now the other way around is I will leave this as such. Leave alone means leave this as such. False means if it is already true, like undo it. That's what you call false. So I'll just do read only, leave alone, mandatory, leave alone. Leave alone means like I'm not bothered, like let it be as such that way. If any other script is pushing it to be mandatory, let that work, but I'm not interested. That is what the leave alone word means. And invisible, I'm going to make it as false. So visible false means that it is it the visibility has to be hidden, right? So let me refresh. So what's going to happen now is description field is going to get hidden from the form layout. So as you can see, we find short description, but we no longer find description, right? It is because we have kept this thing. It is because we have kept this visible false. Now let me turn it back to read only, visible leave alone, and I'm gonna make it mandatory true. Okay. So give you an example of what is this onload functionality is. Now we have mandatory true, visible leave alone, read only leave alone, right? So visibility and read alone, if we're not handling it, we're only handling the mandatory when this condition satisfied. So I showed you already. If I reload this form, this field is going to become mandatory. Now let me say that I uncheck this box. Okay, I uncheck this box and save it. What happens now is that when the form loads, it will not be mandatory, right? The form loads, it's not mandatory. Then when is it going to be mandatory is the next question. So it will be mandatory only when we change the field value. For example, our condition is the short description should contain the keyword SAP sales, right? Now let me enter SAP sales and take my cursor off. You can see that it become mandatory, right? So now you understand what is the difference between onload checked and onload unchecked. So I'll repeat. When onload checked, what happens is this logic or the UI policy action, the entire logic works when you load the form, when you refresh or load the form. But when you uncheck the form, what happens is the functionality no longer works on loading the form. However, it works only when changing the field value, like that condition field value. When you change it, only then it will work. Here, the condition is short description containing SAP sales, right? Any questions on this onload? If this is clear, I will jump into reverse of false. All right. We see that it is onload unchecked. Um, so on the form load, description is never going to be mandatory, but on changing this field value, it is going to be mandatory, right? Which I've already told you. Now, coming back to this reverse if false, what happens is that since this is checked, as the word suggests, it reverses the action when the condition is becomes false. Whatever the actions that you have defined, it gets ulta when this condition returns false. So what is the actions have you that you have defined? You want to make this mandatory true, right? So what is the ulta is by getting it mandatory false. Upon what condition? Upon the failure of this condition. So when can we make this condition failure? The condition will become failure when it no longer has the keyword SAP sales. Now it has the word SAP sales and description is mandatory as per requirement. Now I'm trying to remove this. The moment I remove this, you can see that the description mandatory has gone off, right? And again, I put it back and it becomes here, right? So, reverse if false will do a reverse action when this condition returns false. Now, let me uncheck this. Let me uncheck this reverse if false and save this, and I'll show you what happens. Now, since the onload checkbox is not available, we did not get this mandatory on form load, but we're going to get it when you enter the data here. Right, we got it. Now it is expected that when we remove this, it should clear off, right? But it will not clear off. The reason is because we did not instruct the system to reverse the operation when condition goes false, right? So it will not clear off. It will stay as such. Any questions with regard to onload or reverse of false? Okay. So coming to this inherit, you remember I told you that incident, change, problem, all these tables are inherited from task table, right? Let us say you write an UI policy on your task table, and you have an option to keep that UI policy only for the task table or to keep it extended to the other child tables also. So by enabling this inner checkbox, what happens is tomorrow if you're going to create a new table which is extended from incident table, then that new table will have this logic in its system as well. So that is the point of inherit, right? Now, you understood that you can make use of UI policy actions to make it mandatory, visible, read only. But let us say you have a requirement where you want to do something extra. Probably you want to give an alert message or you want to do some setting of values, something like that. Only at that point of time you would make use of this advanced script. So I can put alert, hey, hi, or alert, uh, please enter your description, something like that. I can make use of this scripting place. I'll not jump into scripting yet. You just focus onto the algorithm and working onto the system without scripting. And once you get familiarized with this, probably after 4 to 5 sessions, we will start with the basic scripting. Now there is one more thing also that you would be capable of doing in your UI policy action, which is nothing but clearing of field value. Now, so you have something called clear field value, right? Clear field value. So I will show you an example of what happens when this box is checked. What happens is whenever that condition is satisfied, this box gets cleared out, right? So let me make this as reverse of false true. Save it, and this clear value, let me enable this and do a save. So here, so the moment you put SAP sales, not only this description becomes mandatory, but also it gets cleared. So my cursor is still here, right? Let me take the cursor off from there. When I take off from there, you can see that it becomes mandatory. At the same time, the value is cleared, right? It means that you're trying to reset the value. So whenever short description, this keyword changes, you're trying to reset description and you're asking the user to feed it again. So that is how, what is the functionality of this clear value. Let me disable this UI policy. This was just created for testing purpose. Any questions with regard to UI policies right now?
Tell me about online memo.
On load, okay. Now, in a simple logic, you want this particular functionality to be working when the form loads, or when only when you change a specific value, right? You, if you want the functionality to be working when the form load itself, then you would mark this checkbox true. But if you feel like no, I don't want this to be working when the form loads, instead I want this to be working only when this field value changes and the condition satisfies, then you will just uncheck this, right? So here right now we have this onload unchecked. What happens is our requirement is making the description mandatory, right? You can see that UI policy action says that description mandatory true, but it is not coming up. Why do you think? Because we have not kept onload true. Okay, but when you make onload true and save it, what happens is the logic starts working at the time of refresh or when the form loads itself. So you can see that at the form loads itself, description becomes mandatory, and as per our configuration, clear value is true. So this also gets cleared out, right? Hope that clarifies your question. So anything with regard to UI policy? Okay, so in UI policy, I've covered everything, all the fields that is important, except for the script section. Script section, we will come back and revisit once we start learning script. Okay, basic scripting. And you have a field called order, right? Order is nothing but, you remember when creating variables or options, I told you that order has to be in incremental order, as in the lowest one takes first precedence. It is like ranking. In order, you translate the word order with rank. So the lowest number is the is takes higher priority, right? So in UI policy also, whichever has the lowest order, that will run first and the highest order will run later. So let us say for incident table you have 10 UI policies, for which 8 UI policies are checked on load true. So the system is expected to run all the 8 UI policies when the form loads. But system cannot run all the 8 policies at the same fraction of second. Instead, system will go through and see what is the lowest order I have, that will be run first. Next, the next highest order, like 110 or 120 or 200, right? The next highest number. So to make sure which UI policy should run after which logic, then we should make use of this order column. But if you do not have any such requirement, you are absolutely fine with any script running first or later. And if you do not have any interconnection between these 5 or 8 UI policies, you could just leave it as 100 or 10 or whatever. Should not be a problem, right? If there isn't any question, we would probably move into uh, the next component. So I'll do right click, configure all. Okay, so we've seen this UI policies, dictionary entries. Okay, so how about looking at notifications today? Okay, so I will just give you some heads up on notifications, and tomorrow we will see notifications in detail. There are some 23 notifications, that 23 out of which how many are active? 22. 22 notifications that is already created by the system. So see, all these records that you see are already created by the system because it comes as a package to you. But when you develop your own application that is something similar to incident or your own logic or the vaccination application that we discussed the other day, you would end up creating this much amount of business rules, client script, notifications all by yourself. So that is why it is important. And also, if there is any bug in this existing notifications, you have to fix it. So in day-to-day company work, these are the kind of requirements that you would get. So let me take you to the existing notification that says incident assigned to me. So in incident assigned to me, we just give this name, and this name is just for developer reference. And of course, active is true, and the table that it wants to run on, incident table. Category is nothing much, just that you're trying to categorize your notification. Like you're setting a tag, but it does not affect notification in any way. This is just a categorizing of notification. There are some existing categories available. You can choose from one of them, or you can create your own categories also. See, there is a category called approval, there is a category called assessment. Assessment mean like survey and all. And there's a category called automated test framework. So whichever notification that are regarding automated test framework will be put under this category, so that it is easier for documentation or for review, right? uh, it is like, see, the purpose of categorizing itself is to make sure that when developer documentation or anything, it is easier to reference to. Now, incident management is something that is an ITSM process. So they've created a category called ITSM, IT service management, and they've mapped to it. Now, there is three main components with regard to notification. You might want to know when you want when you would want to send this notification, and who's gonna receive the notification, and what the notification is going to contain, right? So let's look at the first component, when to send. So it says that you there are options like event is fired or triggered. These and all is a different concept, which I'll explain later today, tomorrow. But the simplest one is when a record is inserted or updated. So if you want the notification to be sent only upon inserted on satisfying a specific condition, you just give this checkbox true. And if you want this only when a record is updated, not at the time of insertion. Insertion means creation. You want it only at the time of change of the field. At that time, then you keep this true. And if you feel like you want this at both the times, you keep both of them enabled. And so let us assume I remove all the conditions. You know what will happen? Every time the incident records gets updated, this email will go. So it is important for you to put under which condition you want to trigger this email. So this incident assigned to me email gets triggered upon insertion or updated as long as these two conditions satisfies. Meaning, when the assigned to is changed at that point of time and the new assigned to field is no longer empty, is not empty, right? When both of these conditions get satisfied, the email gets triggered. Now, who receives the email? Here, the email is sent to the assigned to of the field. In incident table, you have a field called assigned to, right? Which is nothing but referencing to user table. In user table, everybody will have an email ID, right? So that incident tables assigned to user email, that email ID, email will be sent. Now, how do you choose this is you have these two, right? Users or users group in fields. If you want to keep somebody's name default, like regardless of whoever ticket is that I want to send an email to Abraham, then you could put names here. And let us say you want to send it to people outside of the service now, like your Gmail address. Then snowdev123@gmail.com. You can put it like this also. If you do not have this particular user inside your system, this is some external account or something, it's fine. You can just make use of this email address column and click on to that so that it gets pushed inside and close this. So you can choose as many people as you want in this box. And let us say the value is dynamic, it is not static, it is dynamic, it might vary based on the record. At that time, you could use the fields here. Let us say you want to send this to assignment group or assign to. Then let's say you want to send it to all the peoples of the group, so you bring it assignment group also, right? So here in outer box they have given only to assign to of my incident ticket, right? So similar to how I told you that we can choose people, like we can choose Abraham Lincoln or Abel Tutor, some user account. Similarly, there are a lot of groups available in the database, right? You can pick up a group also and trigger this email to them. These are all static, right? And what happens when you click on subscribable is there is something called click here to subscribe, click here to unsubscribe, right? So if you uncheck subscribable, this option will no longer be available to them. So this again comes under the requirement. And in what it will contain, so you have to give a subject and you have to give a body. Don't get confused with this. I will give you a simple thing. So subject will put incident is assign um, incident assigned to you. That would be the email subject. Now we'll say, hey, hi. We'll have to put the assignee name, right? So do you see something kind of a box that says fields and there's a plus icon? You have to extend that and do a control F, assigned to, right? So you get assigned to, but again you see a plus here, right? Because it is a referencing field. So you have to get assigned to name, name of the assigned to. So I do a control F, assigned to, and inside that, yeah, control F, assigned to, and I did plus icon so that it could expand. I could see the all the fields that is inside of assigned to, and here I see several. In that I'm going to choose name, so LMN. Okay, N. So I just click here. The moment I click here, you can see that it automatically got pre-filled with this text, assigned to name, colon, and all of that, right? This assigned to name colon is something that you can remove. It's just a free text. This is your script syntax. Dollar assigned to dot name. So what I'm trying to say is that you do not have to write it on your own. You just click it here. System is automatically going to push that for you. You don't have to put an effort to make this syntax. So hi assigned to name, and then put up a comma. Then inc so and so has been assigned to you, right? So this is nothing but inc number, right? So I want the number Do we have the number in the incident table? Yes, we have. What is the field name? It's called number, right? So I can look up onto the field that says number, right? You have it here. So the moment I click it, it got populated here. So I just need to cut this up and paste it here. Has been assigned to you. Thank you. Like this, you can bring description, short description, every field inside your email. And I'm gonna do a right click save. So let me click on preview notification. So before sending an email, you want to see how it's gonna look like. So at that time, you can click on the button called preview notification, which is on the top right, and it will tell you how it's gonna come. So this is the short description that we wrote. Incident assigned to, and afterwards we gave hi. Can you see hi assigned to name? So that assigned to name. Let me click on this incident. You can see this assigned to. Assigned to is David Lu. So his name has come up here, and we have put dollar number, which is dynamic, right? So number has come here. Now instead of ticket number 60, I'll choose some other ticket. Like I'll choose ticket number 8. So ticket number 8 is assigned to somebody called ITL user. So it says hi ITL user. This so and so ticket has been assigned to you. So the notification that we have developed is a dynamic notification. So this is about some basics of the notification. Tomorrow we will look at this in detail. Any questions so far? So today you can go to notifications module and give it a try. You can write few UI policies and give it a try. Any questions so far?
Hello. Uh, Earlier I asked you a question about
Yes, please.
integer or number. Uh,
Yes. So you said you were not able to see the integer field, right?
yes, yes. I have shared my instance URL.
Okay, I'll look at this. In the meantime, anybody has any other question?
At the starting of session,
Hmm.
you were telling about tables and columns, right? That editing.
Right, right.
So search for employee abscond. Employee.
Oh, you come up with a very good name. Okay, I'm opening up a sample record. So I'm doing right click, configure all. So I'll try to create a new dictionary entry. I'll say employee ID, okay?
No, it's already created, right?
Do you see integer here?
Yeah.
Okay, but
But
I got your
once,
question. Why are you not
yes,
able to
yes.
see in the field that you already created?
Yeah,
Probably
I
this
just tried
one.
to edit that.
Correct, correct.
Mm.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. The reason is because you already have a record in your system. This is to everybody. Listen to this. You already have a record in your system wherein you have a value for this particular field, and this is a combination of number and string, right? So, what will happen when you make this as integer? Let us assume system is allowing you to make it as integer. What will happen? This value will get automatically cleared out, right?
Yes.
So you're not supposed to change your data type after creating a field, at least not after having data in the database. That is why you're not able to see anything called integer here.
So in that case, can I only enter integer value? Then can I able
You
to
can
change it?
okay, you can create a new field, or else what do we do is you can either change it as an integer like 1 2 3, and then save it. After that you should be able to see, or otherwise I'll remove off this value. Now this field
Hmm.
has nothing. Now let me refresh this. I will remove the string and I'll give it a search. I should be able to see the integer. Now you see integer, right?
Yes.
You understood the
So
logic,
what I
right?
did is I
Mhm.
clicked on once open that table. Yeah, open that one.
Yeah, you just clicked on to that field. It automatically gives you that field type is string. So you continued with that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's fine, but I'm saying that okay, it gets created, but after getting created, you open that record and manually change it before creating a record. Or
Yes.
otherwise, you would have to delete
Okay.
the record in order
Got
to
it.
change the data type. Okay, so there, okay, I hope your question is answered. There was somebody who's asking about tables and column, which I explained in the start of the session. Could you please repeat that?
Yeah, that you I mean that's not recorded, right? Means for practice purpose. So I asked once
Okay,
again.
okay, sure. Okay, that is quite simple. So you just type on tables and you go to tables and columns. So you see a lot of tables here. Whichever table schema map or the details of the table you want to see, the existing table, you do a control F. Right now I'll show you for change request. Change request. In this you might see multiple, but just focus on to the table that says change request alone, right? This one alone. And once you click on, you will be able to see the data of this. So you give on edit table so that you would you comes to this page and you can change your this thing and everything, right? You can see all the existing columns, what table is this extended from, and the other details. This and all I've not explained, I'll come back later. All these fields, everything you can see it here. And if you want to jump to the list of the form, see these are the related links you can explore. So if you give show list, it will take you to this place, right? If you click on show form, if you click on show form, it will take you to the change request form for a new record. So like that, you have several related links here which you could make use of. And if you click on show schema map, again you have access to that schematic representation of the table, which will tell you the detailed information of which table is referenced from where. Allow me a minute. All right. So this is the schema map is nothing but a graphical representation of how each table is interlinked with the other. See, we are trying to check change request table, right? You can see that change request table is connected with several other tables. And what is the connection of this table with other tables? You can explore it here and identify the options. And there is a color code for everything. The blue color, the navy blue color says that the tables that are extending from change request. Um, Task table is extended from change request is extended from task table, right? Similarly, change request table is extended to, like, change request child table is something called change request imac table. So like that, how many tables are connected with each of them, everything you will be able to see it in the schema map. And then what else you could see? Okay, the layout of the form and the design of the form, all these details that you would be able to see. And in the tables and columns itself, if you click on create table, you will have access to create a table, just like how you did yesterday. Right? Any questions? All right, so if there isn't any other question from anyone, we'll close for today's session. All right, thank you guys.